your mind has a certain mechanisms to hold you in balance in a certain reality. So maybe the reality that you experience for most of your life, this reality has a certain force to it, has a certain gravitational pull. So if you've been in a certain or used to a certain metrics of reality for, let's say, 10, 20 years or even more, this all this identity, all this reality that you built on top of, it has a lot of momentum. So he has his own like your own force, your own its own momentum and power. And so when you do want to like when you want to change that and create different ones, you don't just think about the new ones that you want to create. You have to think about what kind of influence the old ones will have on the ones that you're trying to establish. If you want to build new habits, if you want to let's say approach women that you usually don't not used to do so, or going more to the gym or whatever, it always feels a lot of willpower. It requires willpower.
And you find as well with hypnotherapy, it's just like 2, 3 hours of a session, which takes up years and years and years of trauma, as opposed to years and years and years of just doing talk therapy. Because our bodies, I don't know if I was unaware of this until a few years ago, is our bodies are our subconscious mind, our cells hold memory. So our emotions have a chemical reaction. So when we feel fear and the addictions as well feeds the chemical reaction in the bodies. So when you have an emotion which is traumatic, we obviously have a physical reaction to it based on the chemical release in our bodies, and that is quite evident when we have trauma and we have past things that happened to us. Obviously, with my own sexual abuse and rape, which happened to me, which I can talk about now with no shame.
So yeah, guys, this is our third time doing this kind of accountability calls. We've been doing this for free for now. Like now is the third time we're doing this for free, but we're definitely not gonna do this for free forever for everybody. Maybe for people that already worked with us in the past, maybe we'll do it for longer. But yeah, I don't think that would be for forever. But anyways, so today we're gonna start by having a guest speaker, that someone that I spoke this week, and I found that he could bring some value to the calls, to share his own experience and his own work. So Augusto here from the UK slash Portugal slash whatever I don't know other mixed. He's gonna talk a little bit about himself now and about what he does and how he could bring some value here for you guys. If you have questions for him, uh, even write them in the comment section or leave them to, I guess, when he finishes, and then you can ask more questions to him. But let's try not make it too long. So let's try to make it as short as possible with that. And now I'm going to give the word to Augusto and to him to share a little bit about himself.
Hi guys, yes, I'm Augusto, and living in the UK now. I've been here for almost 19 years, pretty from Cape Town, South Africa, and I've been doing a lot of work in different sectors. I've been doing a lot of IT work, but I was never fulfilled. My purpose was always to help other people transform. So a year ago, we decided to do a hypnotherapy course called Global Transformational Therapy, dealing with the subconscious mind and getting deep into belief systems. It was really a few years prior to that, was maybe 5 years ago. I decided to confront my fears of public speaking, open up about my childhood, and go deep into subconscious thinking and let go. So my background is I was abused as a kid, sexually abused and raped, and I speak out to help other men to open up about the subject. So I've got no shame about the subject, no guilt and fear to open up. But I find that with relationships and with women and with relationships in general, this type of abuse and fear and trauma holds people back. And it was only until I confronted my fear of my own inner turmoil was able to open up and share and start healing and be more present in myself and be more and more authentic and real. And as a result, I've met some amazing, amazing people, and I've just grown my network of just helping people out there. And yeah, so a year ago, I decided to change my career from IT, from administration. Wasn't happy doing that, just unfulfilling. So I decided to do the hypnotherapy called rapid transformational therapy, and it's been life changing for me personally. So I've changed immensely over the last, especially last year, last 5 years, but last year as such. The lockdown, doing a lot of shadow work, internal work, getting more deep into my subconscious programming, old belief systems, imprints, things that are holding me back in my own um, programming, conditioning as a child, obviously my trauma, as I mentioned earlier. I know a lot of people get triggered when I talk about the subject. I am quite mindful of people who have gone through abuse, but I do know with addictions, for example, it's quite prevalent where people feel that they have to find a way of dealing with the emotions somewhere, somehow. And you find that with addictions, it's about moving away from a painful experience to something that's pleasurable. And what people do is they use whatever they want to use, drugs, alcohol, sex, anything to kind of numb the pain. And the root cause, I feel, from what I've seen through my work, is I am not enough. So there's always a question of lack. People feel there's something lacking in their life, their own child, or their mother or their father didn't love them, or they feel there was something missing in their life. So they use an addiction to fill a void. And obviously, you find a lot of times people use this, um, it's just something which everyone tends to have an addiction of some sort. And, it's important to become aware. And through the work which I do is it's to help people to become more conscious, more awakened, going deep into the heightened awareness of the programming to let go of these limiting beliefs. And it's fascinating when you go to do a regression with somebody, you can see the transformation because I know, like, for example, with talk therapy, like psychotherapy and CBT, it takes years and years and years. And the way the brain works is by talking about something which we put our focus on and attention on every single day, our problems, our addictions, our fears, whatever holding us back. And it reinforces the same, what we're going to attract more of into our lives. So by going, I find I did it myself going to a psychotherapist where you talk about problems every single week and it reinforces that belief system. Whereas what I do with hypnotherapy is it goes to the root cause of the issue and it changes the meaning, the interpretation, the imprint. So it could be if you abuse at 5 or 10 or whatever it is. It could be fear of smoking, or it could be heights or whatever it is. You have people who are fearful, and the way I just see it is just to let go and just to let go of resistance and get out of the mind and the problems. So what I do is I offer 20-minute discovery call on my business which I have, and you find as well with hypnotherapy, it's just like 2 3 hours of a session, which takes up years and years and years of trauma as opposed to years and years and years of just doing talk therapy. Because our bodies, I don't know if I was unaware of this until a few years ago, is our bodies are our subconscious mind, our cells hold memory. So our emotions have a chemical reaction. So when we feel fear, and the addictions as well feeds the chemical reaction in the bodies. So when you have an emotion which is traumatic, we obviously have a physical reaction to it based on the chemical release in our bodies, and that is quite evident when we have trauma and we have past things that happened to us. Obviously, with my own sexual abuse and rape, which happened to me, which I can talk about now with no shame. But I know that this is quite common for a lot of guys and for girls. I know for guys, it's a big issue because men don't want to open up about the subject and they suffer in silence. And it's something that needs to be talked more about and to release and let go of the fear and what people think and judgment and fear of rejection, because in the day it's your own life and you can control and you can let go and live your life the best you can. And I think life is just too short to hold on to things that we hold on to in our own subconscious mind. And once we become aware of what's holding us back, we can change the interpretation. And that's why what I do is so powerful, because you can identify the root cause, not the symptoms, the root cause of the issue, and let go. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell. But ask away. Any questions?
Thanks, man. So yeah, I guess I don't know. Eduardo was struggling with addiction.
Yeah, and I.
Yeah.
But the thing is
Um,
about addictions is it's what we perpetuate in our minds to keep going in terms of the focus, the attention. So you find as well with addictions, it's also a lot of looping thoughts. I want to change, but I want to change. I want to stay comfortable in my own suffering, so to speak, and I want to change. I want to myself, but the the familiar becomes like the comfort zone, and to go into unfamiliar is kind of like scary. So it's almost like going into something which is the unknown, but also you find with addictions, it goes back to a lack of something. So a lack of love, love of I'm not enough. So it could have been a childhood memory, childhood trauma, could be anything which triggers an emotion. As we know, as I mentioned as well, the body's as subconscious minds. So the chemical rush is is perpetuating that same emotional state of being that we are. It's obviously, I believe that we're living in the now. The past we can't change. The future is of imagination. It's still to be protected in terms of anxiety comes in. The past, people live in the past. I lived in the past myself for years and years and years. So I think personally that with addictions, it's what we create as well as what we perpetuate as from the pain we have deep down inside. And the only way to deal with that pain is to go deep in the subconscious mind and to deal with the root cause of the issue and to free ourselves of the interpretation and the meaning and to let go. What people do is, I did it myself. We hold on to that pain as dear, like life, to keep us safe, and it doesn't help us because it creates this loop, this cycle of I want to get better, but I go back to that same habit of the addiction. I'm going to get better. The addiction comes back down again. So the same loop comes up and up and up.
yeah. It has been like this.
Yeah, it's awful because it's only once you find the true meaning, you can break the cycle in the subconscious mind and become more awakened, more conscious, more alert, and you can understand why. Because what we do is 95% or 90% of our thoughts and actions are we're totally unaware in our subconscious mind. We're not conscious. Only once we come do the inner work or shadow work and we find the meaning behind the interpretation of why we do certain things. can change the interrupt and free ourselves from that. And many times we have addictions. We don't know why we feel this way, why we feel unworthy, why we feel we have to drink or sex or gambling, whatever it is. And then people have this cycle of destruction, self-sabotaging their own happiness. And it creates more confusion, it creates more uncertainty. And it's not empowering, it's disempowering to the person. Yeah, it's a loop.
Yeah, I want to add something on that because I think that's addiction is something way deeper than just drugs. A lot of times people confuse addiction with just like
Yeah,
use of substances, but addiction comes from a repetition. It's like
yes,
habit. It's what people call a habit. It's an addiction because you're just repeating the same patterns over and over again, which in the end it's what an addiction is. It's just a repetition process, a cyclical process of repeating the same kind of behaviors and sensations and thoughts, and they just loop. And I think that it's what addiction really is just you escaping whatever you experience, and you're trying to escape it by using ways that are short-term based. So you will try to escape it using drugs and you'll feel good for a while, but then after the effect passes away, you just go back to the shitty feeling that you were left with in the beginning. So you don't really fix the root problem. You're just like running away from those feelings. In the end, it's what really is just you're running away from your own feelings or your own sensations, because you give all kind of meaning and interpretation to these feelings. You label them as bad, and therefore you want to run away from them, but you can never run away from them. The more you try to escape them, the stronger they get, and the more they stay. So if you want to really heal yourself, like at the root cause, you have to really experience these sensations that you've been trying to escape, and really like embrace them and not try to resist what you're feeling or try to escape it. And once you're able to do that, those feelings will, once they lose their resistance, once you stop resisting them, because that's what it's fueling them as well more, is your resistance to them, makes them more real you know
Yeah, I understand. I understand. It's like I don't know. If I go back thinking about the time that I stopped smoking cigarettes, it was a really hard journey. Like, been 3 years. I've tried many different ways till I finally got it right, because I haven't smoked a cigarette since ever. When I do smoke joints, I don't use any nicotine. Like, there is no tobacco inside. There's always natural different herbs, like, I don't know, damiana or all the things. The problem is that I don't know. I just can't seem to find a connection with my emotion and the fact that I just like to smoke. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
how do I go there? How do I get deeper there? How do I understand what is that it's giving the, I don't know how to say that. How do I search inside myself to understand what is that it's giving me the feeling that I want to smoke? You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand that there is a deeper connection with it, but just how do I actually find it?
Could I come in there as well? Because from my work, which I do, and I have a lot of clients with smoking, for example, you find with smoking, there's an underlying belief system that is running a loop in your mind, and a chemical um, addiction, so to speak, in the body. And the mind-body connection is so linked, where you have the thought, and the thought creates the chemical reaction in the body. So the the, the the loop could be as well, where I've had like situations where I've had smoking, no smoking sessions with clients, And I had one in particular with this lady, and she had an issue with trying to stop smoking, but it was came down to her own mother that she had a link to a love for, and the mother used to smoke. And because the mother smoked and she loved the mother, she found an affinity towards her mother, and it was linked through cigarettes. So it's kind of the way it links to. And many times people are totally unaware of the addiction based on their own uh, memories, which are repressed or they subconscious. And only once you can kind of go down deep down on cellular level in our DNA, on our cells, where it gets stored, the chemical reaction through our thoughts and body, we can obviously interrupt that imprint, then free, as people were saying as well, the resistance and to let go. Because I know, like, what we put our attention on, it only creates more of the same. So what we try to resist will only persist in our lives. So it creates more of the same over and over. That's where the addiction comes in. That pain, that suffering, that fear will keep on coming up and up and up. And to numb that pain is through the addiction, and that cycle, that habit will keep on going until there's an interrupt, there's a breaking cycle to let go. And when you have the freedom of letting go, you can say, ah, I understand this now. And once you understand what is causing the issue, man, it's just like freedom, because you just let go of whatever is holding you back, and it just gives you so much clarity and just more conscious awakening to let go. And yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man. Well, I guess we can move on. I wanted to well, thank you, Augusto, for your time and sharing. I think that's definitely very powerful things to share that you shared there. I wanted to talk about, well, first of all, I noticed that a lot of people this week, I don't know why that happened, but whatever, kind of experienced uh, some sort of pullback into their, like into their, let's say, comfort zone, you know, like, or into their reality. And this talk will be more targeting for people that are trying to, like, I would say, it's change your reality or change your like what you think it's your worth or you deserve. And this is it's a process. The process of transformation is really a process that's not easy. Otherwise, everybody would transform themselves completely if there was an easy process. So I wanted to talk about facing tough times when going through the process of transforming. And of course, this is related to the ego. Well, this statement here is, maybe some of you might not understand what it means. The homeostatic mechanisms of the ego mind, basically. So, well, first of all, I would like to ask you guys, like, have you ever experienced when you're trying to change something in your life? Like, did you feel like there was these invisible forces pulling you back to what you know when you were trying to get into the unknown or to expand yourself, your comfort zone? You feel like there was like this invisible ropes pulling you to your comfort zone. Anyone can, like, give some example if you want to share?
Yeah, it's called approach anxiety, bruv. I think everybody goes through that.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, for
And
sure.
Rohel knows like how creative I get with approach anxiety. I probably have spouted an encyclopedia of reasons so far not to approach girls.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great example that how your mind will give you all kinds of narratives that kind of make sense in the moment, like, you know, because they're so creative in that sense. Yeah, Rafael is joining, but anyways, we can you can move on, and then whenever it's time, you can speak. So yeah, like I was saying, all of us in some shape or form try to change like ourselves, who we think we are, and want to be more of that, more maybe in our dating life, maybe financially, maybe uh, fitness or whatever. And for some reason, there is always uh, something that pulls you back. And so I think this is something that is really relevant for a lot of people, because I want to bring awareness to these mechanisms and how they function in your life, so that you're not completely at the mercy of them. You're not completely entangled with them when they do happen, because they, if you're trying to change yourself, if you're trying to do things outside of your current comfort zone, these mechanisms always be playing against your, not against, I wouldn't call it against, but they definitely be part of the process. So basically, your mind has a certain mechanisms to hold you in balance in a certain reality. So maybe the reality that you experience for most of your life, this reality has a certain force to it, has a certain gravitational pull. So if you've been in a certain, or used to a certain metrics of reality for, let's say, 10, 20 years or even more, this all this identity, all this reality that you built on top of it, has a lot of momentum. So he has his own like your own force, your own, its own momentum and power. And so when you do want to like when you want to change that and create different ones, you don't just think about the new ones that you want to create. You have to think about what kind of influence the old ones will have on the ones that you're trying to establish. If you want to build new habits, if you want to let's say approach women that you usually don't not used to do so, or going more to the gym or whatever, it requires, it always feels a lot of willpower. It requires willpower usually when you're starting and trying to implement that, right? But usually, so here it's where you have to be aware of this, in the sense that your level of commitment to actually change those patterns will be way more important than you trying to change them. Because you just trying to change them doesn't mean you will be able to do so, because you have to take in consideration all these past reinforced patterns that you've been reinforcing for all your life, and the influence they will have on your attempts of transforming. And so a lot of people, when they're going through the process of transformation, they have these moments where they feel like, oh, now things are clicking, and you're definitely changing. You feel like something is changing, and suddenly, when you thought you were like doing great, this just everything feels like it starts crumbling. Like you start having doubt and fear and all these thoughts, and like you start being overwhelmed by negative, like almost demonic forces. I would like to call it, but like your ego starts overwhelming you with all this stimulus, all this destruction of thoughts, and to kind of create doubt within you, so that you don't keep pursuing the new set of patterns that you want to establish in yourself, so that you go back to what's more aligned with the ego's agenda, which is to save energy and save time and to survive itself. That's your ego's agenda. And so you have to be aware that this is its agenda. It doesn't care about your transformation, your growth, your improvement. It doesn't give a fuck about that. What it cares is like, are you saving time, energy, and is it surviving? That's all it's interested in. And so you're definitely going against the current of what your ego wants for you to do, right? So you have to be aware of this, because once you indulge in this process of transforming, you will, all these kind of forces will go play against you during the process. And so this is what people call adversity and hard times. Actually, the hard times, we tend to feel like the hard times are external circumstances that are happening, but usually these hard times are your ego defaulting all these mechanisms to pull you back to the homeostatic position that you were once, and you're trying to get away from that. Now that you're pulling away from that gravitational pull, and now he's like seeing, oh wait, he's really trying to do that. And then when that happens, that's when those forces, those thoughts, emotions will come into you. They will come seemingly would seem like the circumstances are the cause of those things that are happening within you, but actually the circumstance has nothing to do with it. It's really just internal drama happening, and it's part of the process. So we have to kind of accept this part of the process, because in a sense, it's a positive mechanism, because it's trying to keep you in a balanced state of consciousness, so that you don't just shift too fast in between states, because your whole system, your whole organism needs to calibrate itself to the new states, to the new state of being in the new reality that you're trying to penetrate or trying to get into. And basically this is the dance, which is the expansion, trying to transform yourself. And then there is the process of contraction, which is the process of the ego wants to kind of pull you back into the balance, into the equilibrium. And why I say this is a good thing is because, like, some of you probably did psychedelics, right? Probably did psychedelics drugs in the past. So if your ego didn't have this system to bring you back to balance, you just could take a psychedelic and just drift off into whatever, even pop out of your body or of alternate states, and you just stay there forever floating. But you're even like, that wouldn't be good for you, because your body is not ready for those levels of energy to stay there as your default and all that stuff. All those realities are not ready yet. So it's a process. It's a slow process of transformation. And that's why people always talk about consistency and momentum, and like being always going, do whatever you wanted to make an habit, you have to make it consistency. And this is why. It's because if you don't make it consistent, these forces will always be at winning. Basically, they'll always win. If you don't try to make a consistent change, you always find yourself getting pulled back into the reality that there is your comfort zone reality, basically. And so if you want to do that, you have to apply certain consistency and momentum during long periods of time, that then when basically you can counterbalance the gravitational pull, and you can use enough momentum to kind of create a balance towards the other side. So you have to create a force towards the other direction, so that you keep it, you hold it, and you're consistent at it for long enough of time that eventually you can shift your habits into the old ones to the new ones. But if you don't do it for long, you will just get back to the old ones, and you always be sucked back, always be sucked. So even if you try like a little bit, if you don't really commit to it, if you don't really do it for long, you will just always be pulled back to what you know, what the reality that you know. So there must have really a big, that's why commitment is so important, because the hard part about transformation is not the short term ups, it's when you get pushed down. And how do you handle that? How do you handle that struggle at the adversity, are you able to keep coming back and keep pushing at it? That's what will define if you're able to, let's say, win the battle against these forces of your ego.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing as well, you know, of your trauma too. So, you know, hats off to all guys.
Yeah, see you next week.
So,
You guys next
Thanks.
week.
Take care, bye.
Thanks,
Thank
okay.
you.
See you.
bye.
See you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.